Alright guys, so this tutorial is going to be focused on the people that did their storyboards on Photoshop. Congratulations, most of the work has already been done, or you've already done most of the work. So make sure you have all of your storyboard PSD files available to you and start, I have two at a time because this is just a sample I pulled from a student's work. And you have different options. You can use the lasso tool if you have complex shapes you have to use. Yeah, and then you're also going to have Adobe Animate opened up. So again, same thing applies. Create new, make sure you select a stage size that best fits whatever template you're using. I'm going to use HD for this one. Frame rate should always be 24 and 24 FPS, and then your platform type should be ActionScript 3.0. Hit create. The neat thing is that you actually don't need a sketches layer, right? Because everything's in Photoshop. So I'm just going to come here. Again, lasso tool, or you can come in here. Lasso tool is more for like complex things going on. For this, you can use the rectangle marquee. And the important thing you want to keep note of is that you're in the right layer. So I'm not anywhere near the template. If you have multiple layers, just make sure, let's say I'm going to just make copies. Say there's a bunch of these layers here, right? They each have different drawings. You don't really know what drawings in which. Just make sure you select all of them. And then I'm going to create this selection right here. Have the marching ants going, and all I'm going to do is hit Command C on my keyboard. Come back to Photoshop, to animate. Come here and then do Command V to paste. Grab my free transform tool and then resize if I need to. Perfect. Now I'm going to go over to the next keyframe, right click, insert blank keyframe, come back to Photoshop, grab my marquee tool again, select this box next. And again, all of these layers are selected if you only have one like he did. I'm going to actually delete all these because he had all of them in one, which is great. All right. Select all of these here. Command C, back to animate, Command V, resize. I know there's some arrows here, and we will get to camera movements. I just want you guys to get the basics down. And that's basically it, guys. You're just going to copy paste all of your panels from your Photoshop. And once you're done, say all of them, you have a bunch of them all the way up to frame 3, you're just going to click on the frames, right? Hit F5 to make them, I don't know, let's say that one's 1 second. This one's going to be, because there's a pan, maybe it's 2 seconds long. But I'd rather you have all of the frames put in here first, and then you go back in there and do the F5. Once you're done, this is going to be the sketches, right? The only thing it just hit me right now, the only thing you have to be mindful is for the paper people, they created a new layer, excuse me, for shading. But because we are copying from Photoshop, you can't necessarily do the shading the same here. So for shading stuff, you would have to do it in Photoshop, right? So this is the actual sketch. This can be called shading. For the shading portion, you're only really working with white, gray, and black, if that. And you're basically just kind of, oops, it's in the sketch layer. I'm going to lock this one. I'm going to paint in shading. You're just shading in stuff that would, right, be darker than others. This looks like it's all outside, so it's not much that I could shade. But if you wanted to do any of the shading, make sure you do it in Photoshop first, if this is where all your work was done. But it's really basic, right? Your sketch layers on top, shading should be its own layer just in case you wanted to change your mind about something. And it's very loose. right? And it's just giving us a sense of time of day, a mood, and all that good stuff. But once you have it done like this, it'll work the same way, right? Select both those layers, grab the marquee tool, Command C to copy. Let's say I'm pasting it here, Command V to paste. Oh, just realized it didn't grab this layer. Let's hide this altogether. All right, there we go. I brought it in the shade now. Cool, but yeah, I forgot to mention that with you all Photoshop people. Make sure you do the shading in Photoshop and then copy paste the stuff over for the scenes that you didn't get to finish in Photoshop, right? You would basically follow the paper storyboard transfers, which is just drawing it on animate and then creating a separate layer for the shading like you did in Photoshop. Let me know if you have any questions. Again, this is all for the checkpoint progress. Once we get closer to the due date, I'll go over how to export, how to add sound, and all that good stuff.